Hallo Schüler und Schülerinnen. Die Grammatik in Kapitel 7 ist Adjektivendungen. What does this mean? That means you're going to finally learn or have an explanation how to put an ending on an adjective when you use it in front of a noun. Let me show you an example. You want to say, der kluge Schüler lernt für die Klassenarbeit. You've heard me say not just klug, der klug Schüler, but you've heard me say kluge Schüler. Today you're going to learn how to know whether to put an E on that adjective, klug, or whether you put an EN on that adjective, okay? Sometimes you also see other endings on adjectives. In this case, ein kluger Schüler ist nicht, and that's something that we're going to be doing in Chapter 8. But in this chapter, you're going to learn how to put an ending on the adjective that comes after a der word. This chart should look familiar to you. I'm sure you'd love to see this again. All the der words, okay? Keep in mind, der words are not just der, die, das, and there are various forms, but also dieser, jeder, and welcher, which you know they all have the same endings. You know all this, okay? You know why things are the subject or predicate nouns after sein or nominative case. You know accusative cases used for direct objects and prepositions durch, für, gegen, ohne, your words buff dog. You know dative cases used for an indirect object, answering to or for whom. For dative prepositions, also bei mit Nachzeit von zu gegenüber. And you know dative cases used for dative verbs. And you know that when genitive is used as well. So those are the der words. When you see a der word and you want to add an adjective in front of the noun, you need to know what ending comes on the adjective. Well, I just added them, okay? That shaded area looks like an Oklahoma kind of shape. You've seen that shape from me before. And in those shaded blocks, the ending that comes on the adjective is always an E, okay? Everything outside that block, outside that Oklahoma shape, the adjective ending will be en, okay? And also everything in plural will be en on the adjective that comes between the der word and the noun. So if you have this chart in your head with the der words and you can shade this area, okay, in your mind or on a piece of paper, you know that all the adjective endings will be D. In that case, if it's a subject, der, die, das, the adjective ending will be an E. If it's accusative, die or das word, it's an E. Everything else, the adjective endings will be en. Let's look at some examples. Here's my little chart down here at the bottom. I keep that in my head. I'm looking in nominative case, things that are subjects or after the verb sein. And here I have a subject. Wo ist der Schüler? If I want to say new, I put, because this is a subject, and I get that from this block right down here, der Schüler, the ending on the adjective will be an E. Wo ist der neue Schüler? Feminine case, die Verkäuferin ist an der Kasse. She's the subject, die Verkäuferin. If I want to put an adjective in there to describe the salesperson, I add an E to the adjective, die junge Verkäuferin ist an der Kasse. If the word is neuter, now take a word, this is not das, but it's like a das word, welches, okay? Fahrrad gefällt dir, the bike is the subject, it's pleasing to you. If I want to add an adjective, which Fahrrad, the red one, then I put an E on it and I get that E from right down here in that block. I hope you're with me so far. Nominative case is really easy, all right? If you're using accusative case, in which case you have a direct object or you're using a preposition, buff dog, okay? Sieht jeden Film. He watches every movie, okay? That's like saying den Film. See the N? That matches the den. But if I have an adjective, since this is masculine and this is accusative, there's the subject and there's the direct object, I come down here to my chart and the adjective will get en. Kaufst du die Gitarre? Die Gitarre. I could say diese Gitarre or jede Gitarre. Doesn't matter which der word I use. That's die Gitarre, but my ending on the adjective is an E. Okay, Gitarre is the thing being bought. That's the direct object. In this example, I have a das word, das Zelt, and I have an accusative preposition, which makes it accusative. Wir fahren ohne das Zelt. And since it's accusative and it's a neuter word, I put an E on that adjective. Wir fahren ohne das große Zelt. Hope you're with me. If you're not, don't hesitate to type me a question in Schoology and let me know what you're having trouble with. In the dative case, which is used for an indirect object that tells you to or for whom, it might be used with a preposition, or it might be used following a dative verb. The dative case, here's some examples in dative case. Ich spreche mit dem Österreicher. Okay, this is an Austrian, a man. Ich spreche mit dem Österreicher. That dem should tell you you're in dative case, and everything in dative is followed by en. Der Anzug gefällt dem Mann. This dem Mann is dative because of that dative verb. And every adjective in dative case is followed by en. Die Tante gibt jedem Mädchen ein Geschenk. Why is Mädchen dative? Well, the Tante is the subject. She's giving something. What's being given? The present. To whom? That's dative. To or for whom. It's an indirect object here. Mädchen's a das word. Keep in mind that's not feminine. That's a das word. So dative is jedem Mädchen, and every adjective ending in dative case, followed by this chart down here, gets an en. Some examples in genitive case. Genitive is used for possession, and it's used behind these prepositions. All right? During, in spite of, instead of, and because of. So here in this sentence, wir besuchen euch während des Sommers, during the summer, während des Sommers. Everything in genitive case, all the adjective endings down here in this chart are en, während des schönen Sommers. In this example, I'm showing possession. Das ist das Auto der Frau, the car of the woman. But I want to say the nice woman. So I'm going to put an en on my adjective because everything in genitive is en on the adjective. And here's another genitive preposition, trotz, in spite of. Trotz des Wetters, except I used a different der word. I used dieses Wetters, in spite of this weather. In spite of this bad weather. Schlecht gets an en because every adjective following a der word gets en in genitive. And finally, I just wanted to show you how easy adjectives are and when they're plural. So in this example, die Restaurants sind immer teuer. These are the restaurants. Every adjective in plural, if you look over here, gets en. Die guten Restaurants. Habt ihr diese deutschen Filme gesehen? It's like saying die Deutschen. Die because it's plural, and en on the adjective. Die deutschen Filme gesehen. This is a direct object, Filme. In this example, the third one, the plural word is dative. Wir wohnen bei den Leuten. We live with the people. Which people? The nice people. Die netten. Okay? So in dative, that becomes bei den netten Leuten. It's like saying den plus en on Leute. And in the following last example, genitive case with plural, während der schlechten Tage, during the bad days. Okay? Doesn't matter what, actually it doesn't even matter what case it is. If your noun, Tage, Leuten, Filme, Restaurants is plural, the adjective that comes before it will always end in en. All right? So there you have it. We're going to get to some practicing. I'm going to see what you can do for me. But please keep in mind, if you're having any trouble over the next day or two, you'll have to email me in Schoology and saying, Frau Weiss, I just don't get this, or Frau Weiss, can you help me after school? I'll arrange some tutoring. All right? Thanks.